the generic, power is the capacity to create effects. If you're powerful, you can create a lot of effects. You can do lots of things. And if you're not powerful, you can't. So that's the basic underlying definition. And there's different modes of doing that. And power over these are phrases to distinguish different kinds of power. Some people say power to have the first, when you're talking about the capacity to do, they'll say power to. But I just leave it as power because it is so basic. And if you do it by controlling things, that's power over. And that can get into domination and manipulation. There's a funny way in which power over leads into power with. Power with is generated by collaboration, and most people think of it as, oh, we're working together and that's all nice. And that's definitely a big part of it and the positive dimension of it. But there's also, when people are being controlled, they are cooperating with that control. That's one of Gandhi's gifts of insight, is that the people in India were basically cooperating with their oppressors, and Gandhi was saying, hey, just stop cooperating and the oppression will basically be disempowered. And he did it strategically, and it was very powerful. He developed a power over the oppressors, because the British, because they couldn't use their efforts to control. Putting people in jail and clubbing them over the head didn't produce the results that it was designed to originally. So this is an insight of withdrawing your cooperative power in order to stop collaborating with the domination that you're experiencing. But most of all, power with is the people working together, the barn raising, the teamwork, all that kind of thing. Power from within is like, there's a sense that somebody can be more powerful than somebody else because they have presence. They have a sense of they're really there. They know what they're about. They're doing it. They have a strong purpose. They're focused on it. They're disciplined. There's a sense of the laser quality. People can be guided by or called a vocation, where you have been called to do something. I was called to work on this co-intelligence project, and it's like there's a power that comes from within or through me to work on all this stuff, and I get some clarity, and it looks like discipline from the outside, but it's like just the focus is there. It's a drive. So that's a power from within, and a group can have that too. If a group has a strong purpose and is willing to do whatever to fulfill their purpose, that's a power from within. That's very powerful compared to groups that are sort of flailing. And power from among, this is like people talking together, people interacting well, supporting each other, and the ability of a group or a community to generate new energies and new ways of doing things by the way they interact together. A lot of conversational modalities support power from among. And it's similar to power from within at a group level, but power from within can be, it doesn't have to have conversation. It can have some powerful leader that inspires everybody and everybody's aligned to go in one direction. That's a power from within. And that there's these overlaps, like power from within and power from among can help you have power over a situation. Power with can also be collaborative. You're collaborating with nature, or you're collaborating with the forces that are there in the situation. The Aikido master, is being using power with, he's collaborating with the energies of his opponent, flowing with them and defeating the opponent by flowing with their energies rather than fighting against them. So there's lots of dimensions to these. Power through is wise use of resources. I'm going, power through money, power through information. This is a less common acknowledged, but you have power because you have these resources and you use them well. And if you use them wastefully or sloppily, you don't have as much power through. So the idea is not that many people in the who support co-intelligence or want to think in terms of collaborative co-approaches think we should get rid of power over. We should replace power over with power with. And I'm going, power over, you want to lift a spoon, you're going to be using power over the spoon. There's a place for power over, and there are precautions which are covered in other parts of the patterns to get rid of the toxicity that can often accompany power over. But you basically want to have, you ideally maximize all of these, like empower all of them and synergize them all, to have them all woven into one coherent form of power, which I call multimodal power, which is extremely powerful, but has few toxic impacts. Manipulation, I didn't say this in my review of power over and power with. There's a funny way in which manipulation is the bridge between power over and power with. You are using the impulses and habits of people to get them to do what you want. You know, you use the sexy lady to sell the car because the men and women to a certain degree will be influenced by that image, even though it has nothing to do with the car, really. But it's a way to manipulate. You will say that taxes are a burden, so people don't want to pay their taxes. And that's because people don't want a burden, whereas that's the conservative approach. The liberal approach to say taxes are the dues you pay for civilization. So they're framing it in another way. So the different framings being done by different sides in an argument are manipulating people with imagery and words, which is a form of power over, but it's moving with. It's like an Aikido move. It's moving with. People don't protest it. They sort of don't even realize it's happening. So that I just realized that neoliberal strategies described by the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is about a guy who went around convincing developing countries to do major development projects using businesses from the developed world and borrowing money from the developed world to go into debt to develop their country. And then anybody who didn't go along with the program would be deposed, in a coup or a revolution. Watching that happening in Venezuela right now. So it's and this guy did this work. This was his job until he quit. He's now a leading, what do you call it, a shaman, John Perkins. So he describes this as a funny way in which it's using the whole system, all these different forms of power to get your way. The basic background of it is power over, whereas the basic background of nonviolence is power with. Feels like nonviolence is an obvious form and method. And what the image that came to mind was there's a picture of this little girl going into a school integration with the National Guard standing there. There's people screaming at her, and the National Guard is holding them off while she walks into the school. And part of what, I don't know if people know or aware enough about what's going on in that picture, but there were all these protests and, dialogues and, the people getting beaten over the head and whatever as part of the integration movement. But it didn't succeed until the National Guard showed up. It's sort of like the nonviolence did work for the powers that be to support finally the powers that be moving in and making it happen. And there's a way in which that's a merging of, you know, power over with power with and power from within, you know, power from among. Once you study it, it has all of those well integrated. Exactly. Let's do. Anyway, nonviolence is a main methodology, especially Gene Sharp. I think it's the Albert Einstein Institute.